got 53 people here, so I think it's a good enough time as any to begin the session today. So welcome everyone to the first information for the Peer Cadet Program 2025-2026 intake. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've got about 45 minutes to give you a little bit of a rundown of what the Peer Cadet Program is and open it up to any questions at the end. And we're joined here today by the Peer Cadet leads from the 9 organisations who are hosting Peer Cadets. And I'd like to pass it over to Lauren, who's going to open today's session with an acknowledgement.
Thanks, Daisy. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we meet today. I acknowledge their unceded sovereignty and ownership over the land, sky, and waterways, and acknowledge the importance of connection to country, culture, and community, especially in the context of well-being. We can't talk about peer work and lived experience work without acknowledging our collective liberation, and part of this is recognising the ongoing burden of colonisation on First Nations communities. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lauren. Okay, so we're going to do some introductions. You might be wondering who is who on the screen today. So I will start with, my name's Daisy. I am at the moment overseeing Lived Experience Career Compass, which is the statewide coordinator for the Peer Cadet Program. My pronouns are she, her. And what I love about the Peer Cadet program, having been involved in it for a number of years now, just on the periphery, is seeing the growth in the people that get a cadetship, and I think watching them out in the workforce now and talking about their start and how amazing that was. So I'll hand it over to Snez.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for attending today, and good luck with the process of the cadetship if you decide to apply. My name is Snezana Zezovska, pronouns she, her. I work for CoHealth. I've been involved in the cadetship since its inception, first as a mentor and the last few years now as a lead. What I do like about it, I'll second what Daisy was saying. It is around the ability to see people, develop some skill sets and really enhance, this space. And it also is an area where you watch them grow and develop and then see them out in the workforce. And it's done in a slow, supported environment. And, whether they continue to work with the organisation that they're part of the cadetship with or out in the workforce, you do see them thrive, and it enables a safe and supported work process. So that's probably, it for now. So thank you for attending and good luck.
Could just go down the list of the organisations as they are on the slide. So Emma.
Thanks, Daisy, and hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Emma Noski. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Peer Cadet lead from IRMA 365. I've been with IRMA for over 12 years in a bunch of different roles, but this is my 3rd year of the Peer Cadet program, which is really exciting. And what I love most about the Peer Cadet program, I think that it literally changes lives. Some of the people that have been in, some of the cadets who have been through our program in the past, it's opened up doors and opportunities for them that they've been really grateful for. And it's really a VIP pass to be exposed to a range of different programs and learn from other peer workers and to see what path you might want to pursue ongoing and where you might want to see yourself working in the future. So and it's a lot of fun along the way as well. So great. Thanks, Daisy.
Thanks, Emma. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Green and I work at Eating Disorders Victoria. My pronouns are she, her, what I love about the Peer Cadet Program. It's such a privilege to be part of, connecting with our cadets. And then what I love is when they go out into the world and connect with others, and then they come back, and then we have these amazing reflections on what they've discovered, whether it be an event or a session, a mentoring session. So yeah, it's a massive privilege, and I absolutely love my job. So I will hand over to Lauren.
Sorry, everyone, my mouse was on the wrong screen. Good morning again. I'm Lauren. I use she and her pronouns, and I work at Nimi National. I've been working at Nimi for almost a year. It's coming up to my 1 year in a month and a half. Absolutely have loved working here, and I've actually worked for a number of our partner organizations as well. So yeah, I can really speak highly of all of our orgs and the work that we do. The thing I love most about the Peer Cadet program is it's just such a privilege to work in the mental health reform space. And I'll hand it over to Beck.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everyone. I'm Beck. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the project lead at Ballarat Community Health. I've been in this role for 2 years, so this is my third year doing recruitment. I guess what I love about the program is similar to what others have said, is just seeing the growth both personally and professionally in the cadets, from their nerves at the interviews to seeing it at the end of the program, working with clients and just that passion that they've developed. It's just really, it's a privilege to, I guess, watch and help them walk alongside in their journey. So pass to Chloe.
Hi everyone, my name's Chloe. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Peer Cadet lead at Wellways. It's also my third round, coming to my third round of the Peer Cadet program. My favourite thing about the program would have to be, I think, just having that carved out space, like to do peer learning and to really dive deep into those intentional peer support values and frameworks that guide us in the work, and being able to really support new peer workers to have like sustainable careers in the space. So that's me, and yeah, really looking forward to meeting whoever I get to meet. And I'll pass it over to Ellen from H, I believe, today.
Thanks, Chloe. Hi, everybody. My name is Ellen Maple. I'm standing in for Naomi Crosley today, who's yet to start, but will be our soon-to-be lead for the Peer Cadet program. I use pronouns she and her. I actually lead some other early career programs for each, and just been holding the peer cadetship space since January. So I've had a really privileged 5 months of being able to kind of immerse myself around and really think about the lived experience space. And I've really enjoyed learning what's unique about peer work, what makes this space really special, the system reform that is the grounding of the work, and what the future looks like, and being a part of one of the most successful reform programs that we've seen in Victoria for mental health around the peer workforce development. So it's a really exciting opportunity to watch people's lives change, watch individuals grow, but also see how that really is going to shape and change the future of the landscape in mental health. So congratulations for your interest in being here, and good luck to those of you who are going to apply soon. And I'll hand over to Mind, I believe, if Tim's here.
Yes. Hi, my name's Tim. My pronouns are he, him, his. My role title is Lived Experience Project Lead. This is also coming to my third round of the Peer Cadet program. And I think what I love about the Peer Cadet program is seeing people develop over time and find their confidence and their identity and style in their work. And then seeing people move forward onto really meaningful careers. It's an absolute privilege to see. I will pass on to Renee.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Renee, pronouns she, her. I am the project lead for the cadetship at Uniting. This is the first year that I've been leading the program here at Uniting. However, I have been involved in the cadetship in other ways, in other organisations, with having cadets in other programs that I was managing. I'm really passionate about the peer cadetship. Just seeing people be able to, find their voice and to continue through their recovery while inspiring others, and just watching the passion and the growth within someone to not only continue within themselves, their team, others, and the broader community. It's really beautiful to watch, and we're the big change makers, and I feel really privileged to be a part of it. So welcome everybody and good luck.
Thanks, team. So we're going to go through a bit more information about what the Peer Cadet Program is now. If you do have any questions as we go through, and you might be worried that they might fall out of your brain, because I know that happens to me, please feel free to pop them in the chat. We won't respond to them straight away, but there will be an opportunity for questions at the end of today's session. And so if they're in the chat, we can refer back to them if we don't cover it, the content. Right.
All right. That's me, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is peer work? Sorry, am I echoing? No. Okay, cool. Peer work is really different than traditional service relationships. I'd say many of us in the space might have worked with someone who works in the industry before. So peer work has two different, two different sort of lenses. There's the consumer peer workers, so for people who have used services, and the carer movement, so people who have cared for someone who's using services or has an experience of mental health challenges and or distress. We share intentionally in peer work. Peer workers aren't motivational speakers, although you might be that too. But we share with purpose. We consider why we're sharing and how we're sharing with people. And that includes both the people we work with, that includes both the people using the services, but also our colleagues. Mutuality is a really big feature that differentiates peer work from traditional service relationships. In peer work, we look at both parties and both parties part of the relationship. We want to promote hope and growth for both sides. Neither person is the expert or the helper, or the person who's recovered and the one who has to recover. In peer work relationships, no one is the problem, nor is there necessarily a problem. On the ground peer work can look exceptionally different depending on the service you work in. In a residential setting, on the ground peer work might look like groups. It might look like checking in with people. It could be working with people to understand or make sense of their experiences. In community work, that could be you might be going out on outreach, visiting people. You might have people coming to the space, but people are out in the community and living their lives, and we can support people in that. Shared feelings, not just experiences, is a really big one, and was a really big one for me when I first came into peer work. So sometimes we can think that we can only connect to someone if they've had the same experience or the same diagnosis. But what sits underneath that? There's an untold story about things we might be feeling. We might not have experienced the same diagnosis, but we might have felt some isolation or, challenges. We might have dealt with stigma, family relationship breakdowns. There's all sorts of things and feelings that can happen underneath those experiences. We don't need to have the same experience to share space. Peer work is an alternative to traditional service relationships. So sometimes peer work is seen as this add-on or bonus to clinical or non-lived experience work. With peer work, we see it as a completely different way of delivering. I think we like to see peer work as something that's quite a radical shift in services. Lived experience or lived expertise. So lived expertise is a term that you'll hear a lot if you're lucky enough to get a spot in the cadetship. Everyone has lived experience. And particularly in the context of work in mental health, many people come into this work because they've had a lived experience either for themselves or someone they care about. Lived expertise is more than just having that lived experience of distress and recovery. Lived expertise is how we're able to put our own experiences and consider the experiences of people over time in our mental health space and people in the consumer movement, or the consumer survivor ex-patient movement. And importantly, peer work has career growth potential. So when I first jumped into peer work some 6 or so years ago, I thought that peer work would be a bit of a stepping stone and that I would stick with it until I found some kind of clinical degree that I wanted. I very quickly found that there was room to move up and there was room to try different things out. Um, I've been in leadership spaces in lived experience work for some 4 years now, and there's always space to grow and to move and to change around. I love peer work and I'll always be a peer worker at heart. But once you've got some experience, there might be all sorts of other things in lived experience work that you'd like to experience. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tim. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program itself, and what's on offer for you to think about applying for. So basically, the peer cadetship is a part-time contract. So you're going to get paid for 3 days a week of work. That's your commitment to the cadetship. What you get in those 3 days is 1 day to study. So a lot of people will be attending TAFE on the 1 day. And the other 2 days you'll be expected in the workplace where you'll be getting experience of peer work. If you're on a break from TAFE, you'd be expected to come into work on that day. So, so it's a 3-day week commitment from you. The contract you'll have is over 10 months, a 10-month period. So in each organisation, you will expect to have a project lead. So you've met all the project leads today. Most of us have been here, introduced ourselves. So the role of the project lead is to oversee the cadetship. So we might meet regularly with you to check in how things are going. We might have what we would call line management responsibility. So doing some of the administrative stuff like HR and pay, and those kinds of things, working with the department to make sure we're meeting their expectations around what the peer cadetship is supposed to include. And that is primarily a great experience for yourselves, the peer cadets. We also work very collaboratively with each other. So the peer leads connect quite regularly. We learn from one another, and hold each other to account and share wisdoms and experiences about making the cadetship the best experience it can be as well. The other person you'll see on a day-to-day basis will be your peer mentor. So the days that you're in the workplace, you'd expect to meet with the mentor. They will ensure that you have something to do on that day. So they'll work with you to identify some tasks for you, so either some groups or outreach or whatever the program it is that you're attending. And what the work looks like each day will really grow and change with you. So as the peer leads and mentors obviously have to work with what's happening in the organisation and the program to identify appropriate tasks and activities to engage you in. So it will be important that those activities enrich your learning and give you that great experience, but also help you work within your current capability, which we would expect to grow, as will your confidence over that 10-month period. And your mentor will be in a lived experience role and have a bit of experience around intentional peer support and lived experience roles as well. So you'll have that support throughout the cadetship to grow your knowledge. So there'll be chances to do some reflective practice and meet with a whole bunch of different stakeholders, be in a professional work environment. So, seeing what that looks like from that lived experience lens. So for some people, that's stepping into this kind of sector for the very first time. So we really nurture that step in at that very entrance level and help you grow and build your confidence over that period too. You will have a planned orientation period. There'll be regular support, such as meetings with your mentor and the lead quite regularly. Often those meetings are called co-reflections, which is a space where you're able to learn together. None of us are experts in all of this. We're learning together all the time. Some of us have more experience than others and have been doing it a bit longer, but all of us day to day, even those of us who've been in the industry for many, many years, continue to learn. And you, our cadets, can sometimes be surprised to find that you can be our teacher too. So that we're all learning at all times, which is really exciting. So you'll have that co-reflective space. We'll help you out with meeting your TAFE requirements. So the next slide is going to be a bit more about the eligibility. So it is important that you're enrolled in TAFE and studying the appropriate course, and a part of that will involve placement. So your peer lead will support you along with a mentor to meet those requirements to complete your placement, and ensure that you're having that your confidence and capability basically are growing throughout your experience. So as I alluded to, the part of the cadetship is that you are enrolled in a certificate in mental health peer work. So that is a free TAFE course that you can enroll in. There are paid options too, which some people choose because of their accessibility. So there'll be a little bit more information about that to come. But essentially, you need to be enrolled in that certificate for mental health peer work around the start of the cadetship period, so that you can be engaged in studying while you're learning. That's a key part of the cadetship experience. So you need to be able to meet the selection criteria that's defined by the participating organisation. So we are not all the same. Some of our organisations have particular focuses of support and particular programs that will be looking for people who have can fit into that criteria. For example, Eating Disorders Victoria. At each, we have a mix of different programs, from family violence, drug and alcohol, mental health. So we'll be looking for people who bring in some experience to those particular areas. It's not mandatory to be matched exactly with your lived experience, but have a look at each organisation's criteria just to check that you meet that eligibility there as well. And that we are looking for people who have had a lived or living experience as a consumer or a family or carer. So I think Tim did a great job of describing what that lived experience is. So I won't re-explain that again, but essentially we're looking for people who have accessed the mental health service system in some way, either through their own mental health challenges or from the perspective of the carer. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alan. Brilliant job. So now we're just going to shift our focus to some things that, in our experience, we'd suggest or advise you to consider. So just thinking about a really important thing is just to think about the workload really realistically. Like, imagine yourself in the space, imagine that 3-day commitment, the study, and plus the workload, and thinking ahead that this is a 10-month commitment, 3 days a week. And those 3 days a week need to be between Monday and Friday, just so you know as well. Another really important thing is just to consider your financial situation as well. Is 3 days enough for you at this stage? And then also really importantly too is the logistics. If your cadetship is on site, so at EDB, for example, we're in Abbotsford and it is on site on Tuesday and Wednesdays. Is it a good location for you? Is it somewhere easily that you can get to? And then, of course, really importantly is your own journey. Are you in a stage where you think that, you can do a bit of reflective work now, that you've done a bit of the process work, and that ultimately what we're doing, even though it is a mutual job and a mutual role that we're in, that ultimately we are here to support others. And that's something that they're always talking about. We do that work on ourselves, on our own journey, but then ultimately it's an offer for others as well. So thinking about what the personal skills are, I think what I've learned in the last 2 years in my role here is that growth mindset is huge. Like when we're interviewing for cadets, we'll be really looking for that. Are they in a space to have a willingness to learn, for self-reflection, but also an awareness of others' journeys, and that recovery looks different for everyone. And just that sort of willingness to communicate and willingness to sort of tune into the wisdom of others around you as well. Once you're in a designated role in peer work, that really is that you're opening out to the world, that you do have lived experience. So that's something that you really need to take the time to think about in terms of a digital footprint as well. Am I okay to have myself in a designated role, which is openly stating that I have lived experience? The benefits, we could do 45 minutes on the benefits of this work alone. But even as I joined this, joined the meeting this morning, I automatically felt, so happy to be with my colleagues and in a space that immediately, we talk a lot at EDV, people just get it. They just get it. And I think that is such a privilege of a space to work in every day. And I think too, like even as each of my colleagues has been talking, I've learned something. I've tuned into something new. So when we talk about the benefits of being a peer worker, it's also the benefits of working in this space that we learn, like Alan was saying, from you as well, as long as we have that willingness to share. I think another huge benefit is just this points of connection. I think it can be easy in this work to look for points of difference, but what we're really trying to do is look for points of connection and make an offer, which sometimes may not be taken up, but make an offer of connection with others. And then there's all these lovely other practical skills that you can use in other jobs and in life around communication. Tim touched on those leadership skills, things like boundaries, having boundaries in this work. And also ultimately too, looking at that space of advocacy for our community. So I'll leave it there. But yeah, like I said, lots of benefits.
Thanks so much, Ruth. That was amazing. I guess I'm going to take a bit of a deeper dive into a bit of what Ruth said. It's like a bit of a self-reflective exercise for you when you're considering whether you might, like, is now the right time to apply. I feel like before applying for anything, whenever I, thinking of applying for something, it's helpful, I guess, to check in and think like, I might want this, but sort of, am I ready for this? Is a good reflection to do. So I guess just these few, you could ask yourself if you're in the place where you're ready to share parts of your story safely and with purpose. There's a big word in peer work called with intention, and you'll hear the word come up a lot. And it's around, being able to identify parts of your story that you feel comfortable sharing in a way that will be safe for yourself, and then will also be supportive for the person who you're working with. Can you hold space for others without needing to fix or rescue them? Back to what Ruth said around finding those points of connection and boundaries, and peer work is so much about holding that space and finding those points of connection, and not being in our heads thinking, what can I do to fix this situation? Like, how can I, being that person that, is gets them to their ultimate goal, often in peer work, or we're a part of the journey. And often when someone's receiving services, it's like a part of the journey. It's not necessarily the beginning and the end of it. And how another reflection could be like, how do you currently look after yourself when things feel tough or overwhelming. This is, really just a self-reflection exercise around your own like toolkit of things that you might do when you, things are feeling overwhelming, or, new jobs are always just so here, there and everywhere. And it can definitely, be good to know what you like to do to decompress, both like in work time and out of work time. And, organizations and the leads and services will be really supportive of this learning as well. And I think Ruth already covered it, but just around realistically committing to working 2 days a week and 3 days a week, but one being working 2 days on site and one out of service and one structured learning day, while balancing any other life responsibilities. Again, like coming down to like obviously adjustment. We all 9 organisations are so supportive of working with like staff to working with staff to find ways that we can make the work feel right for you, and we can make it safe and accessible. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of the in the application process. Don't hesitate to ask questions around accessibility and around what you might need to make that a realistic commitment for you. I'm sure we've got, again, this is a lived experience program, we, may have living experience as well, and care responsibilities. And I just want to say that there's really, there's no perfect time. I don't want to, these sometimes reflective questions can go in those like black and white mindset of, like all or nothing, but there's really no perfect time. You don't need to have it all figured out. It's really just, I guess, reflecting around like where you're at right now, what you might, what type of support you might need, and how you might approach the work, and just having that sort of always encourage people to come into peer work with a sense of like curiosity, and especially in the cadetship, which is such a learning-based program, especially while you're studying as well, that willingness to learn makes a really strong place to start. So that also goes with that question around open to learning and growing and reflecting, even when it's uncomfortable sometimes, because learning is uncomfortable sometimes. But yeah, that's that one. I'll sort of is alone.
Thanks, Chloe. So the application process, I'm going to level with you. Applying to organisations like any of ours can have their challenges because our workplaces are part of the existing mental health systems and they're not perfect. We're collectively advocating for slow and much needed systems change. But because of this, it's really important to access support if you're experiencing barriers during the application process. You might ask for support from folks in your personal life, maybe at a current or previous workplace, or at your training organisation or TAFE. You might also reach out to the contact in the job description, which would likely be one of us leads. And we can try to support you from an accessibility perspective, as Chloe was just speaking to. However, unfortunately, it's not part of our role to help you develop your application. Before submitting an application as well, it's really important to read the advertisement and position description thoroughly. I understand that doing a lot of reading can be a little bit dry. And again, there might be barriers for individuals to get through this information. I know myself personally, I can really struggle with reading position descriptions. However, the reason it's so important to read these thoroughly is that each organization is going to differ slightly, and it's important to understand what you're applying for. So again, if you have questions about this, you may want to reach out to the contact in the advertisement. In your application, it's really important to respond to the requirements and eligibility criteria outlined. For example, in your cover letter, you'll need to say things like you're enrolled in the Peer Work Certificate IV, or that you're, looking to enroll or in the process of enrolling. And you'll want to mention very briefly that you have lived experience. Just a note on that. That doesn't mean disclosing your entire story or history, just identifying that you have lived experience and perhaps the type, whether it's consumer or carer, or for some people, both. And it is a competitive process. So with hundreds of applications submitted each year, folks who don't mention key points like the key selection criteria might not be considered. So really, really important to be responding to the eligibility criteria for the program. To help with your application, I have put together a list of items that made applicants stand out to me during recruitment last year. I'll note that all our organizations and leadership styles are really different. So this is just my own experience of what I was looking for in an application. And some of these have kind of been briefly touched on. But for example, they submitted a resume and a cover letter, either via the application portal or via email. Really important to do both, not just a resume or not just a cover letter. Identified that they met the eligibility criteria, as I just said, showed some understanding of what peer work is. So from coming to a session like today and listening to Tim speak earlier, that would have supported you to do so. If you're already into your studies, that would also give you a little bit of a picture, or you might want to do some reading on our websites as well. NEMI, for example, has a pathway to peer work page. We're looking for applicants that showed some understanding of what the Peer Cadet program is as well, and expressed that they could commit to most of the key components of the program. So we're looking at folks that really can do those 3 days per week, 1 day of a study day, and 2 days of placement. Looking for folks that attended an information session or watched the recording if unable to attend live. So if you know others that are looking to apply, this is being recorded, as mentioned earlier in the chat. Looking at applicants that briefly touched on lived experience without engaging in extensive or unsafe disclosure, either over the phone or via email. This one's really important. It's really necessary that we gain consent before we disclose really heavy details of our lived experience, and doing so without consent or in great detail via an application could be, to me, an indication that maybe they're still processing some of that stuff and figuring out where to put it all. And the application itself is not the right place to put it, unfortunately. Looking at applicants that showed some understanding of what NEMI is as an organization. So that's, again, specific to applying with me. Looking at applicants that were located in an area where we could provide a placement opportunity. So that's going to be detailed in the NEMI ad, and I'm pretty sure it's detailed not only in the different advertisements for each organization, but also on the Mind page that has the Career Compass Lead details. And also we're looking for applicants that provided insights into their values, which align with peer work and or NEMI as an organization. So yeah, looking at applicants to make you really stand out, who express values of, for example, accessibility, inclusion and diversity, and connection to either community or with others who maybe experience mental health or distress. Those are the types of things that we're looking out for. But there's no perfect way to write your application. We saw a lot of folks really personalize them last year, and that was great too. But these are just some of the key points that I was looking for. I hope that helps. And like I said, and it's like it's been spoken about during the presentation today, please feel free to reach out to the contacts that are in the ad and just check in about what it is that you want to include if you're unsure.
Amazing. Thanks, team. Beck, I believe you've been monitoring the chat to see if there are any questions. We are at that point of the webinar for you to ask any questions. In terms of accessibility, you should also be able to pop your hand up and then unmute your microphone to ask a question as well. Just full disclosure, this, as stated in the invitation, this is being recorded, so your voice would be recorded if you do choose that option as well.
So I have been reading through the chat, and I guess a few of them have been answered during the presentation. So if I haven't got to you, if I don't read yours out, I'm sorry. I've just I can't exactly get to them all. There's been quite a few questions about the days, the hours, what suburb. It is all dependent on the organisation, and that information can be found on the Mind website. We've got a brief overview. Quite a few questions about TAFE. Can you enrol after confirmation of a role? It's also dependent on org. I believe some orgs are okay with that. Some would prefer you to be further along. If any questions regarding which org, I guess contact the org specifically or jump on the Mind website. We've all kind of got our little FAQ page. So the study day on-site or off-site, that's dependent on organisation as well. Some do it from home, some do it partly in the office. You will, if you're studying, there was another question about if you're studying 3 days a week. Only one of those days will be a paid study day. That's all that we're funded. We obviously would love to provide more, but we're just not able to. Any further questions? Daisy's put the email in the chat to Mind to ask any further questions, or like Lauren said, reach out to this specific org. Can you switch organisations if over time a better fit is identified? That's it. I guess technically no. I don't think, but someone can jump in. We're all separate organisations. We work collectively with each other, but we are all separate organisations. So if you finished up with one, you would then, I guess, have to reapply with another one. But someone can jump in if that, if you think otherwise. I think that's been obviously a very, very quick overview of the questions, and apologies if I've missed any.
I think there was one question that I saw, was quite curious about. I think Chloe popped into the chat as well, reshared it, around, can you shed some light on some of the challenges that we may come up against in the cadetship, other than just managing time, priorities and responsibilities? And does anyone have any of the leads have anything they'd like to say to that?
Yeah. I'm noting the time, so we're very quick. It's a really great question, and thanks for asking it. I guess when I think about when I started peer work, my first ever peer work job, some of the things I guess it was my first time working you're working usually in a multidisciplinary team, so you might not just be working with peer workers, be working also with clinicians and other support workers. So that's obviously an opportunity, but the challenge part being, I guess, getting used to this. So working with so many different types of professionals. I guess also, I learned a lot about myself. And I think in peer work, when you're sharing your experience or figuring out what to share, there's so much learning. And when I first started peer work, I was a bit confronted by that, the amount of learning I did about myself. And and I think also just peer work is, we're advocates, and peer work is often there's a lot of advocacy that we learn to do for participants and for each other. And that's another learning journey. So not all of those are traditional challenges, but they just might be some that might feel challenging, within the actual role of working in lived experience and being a peer worker, which I hope that's useful.
I answer one of the questions that I've seen in the chat as well. Natalie's just asked, if we get selected, will there be time to give appropriate notice at our current jobs? This is a really great question that I'd love to answer in terms of timelines. So whilst the advertisements are going live tomorrow for each of our organisations, the recruitment will be open for, depending on the organisation, I believe it's up to 4 weeks. And then after that closes, there will be a recruitment period where there'll be phone screening calls, looking at all the applications in great detail, and then eventually interviews. So it will be likely 2 or plus months until we know who the peer cadets are going to be. And then beyond that point, there will also be all the screening that our organisations need to do. So there are police checks, working with children checks. Some organisations have additional other checks that need to be done. If you don't meet some of these checks, there are sometimes negotiations that can be done, particularly if it relates to lived and living experience as well. So please don't let that deter you from applying either. But given those checks and reference calls and everything else takes time, if you were offered a position, you wouldn't be expected to start the next day. You would definitely have enough time to give notice to a current employer and also organise yourself with your study day and everything else. For NEMI specifically, we won't be taking the peer cadets on until August, so their start date wouldn't be until towards the end of the month, and there would be about a 1-month period between notifying them that they are successful candidates to them starting their 4-week orientation period.
Amazing. Thanks, Lauren. I've just popped up a QR code that will link you to the feedback form for today's information session. If you're able to fill that out, that would be amazing. Every year that we do these, we change them slightly based upon the feedback from the previous years. So we're constantly learning and growing as this program progresses and what we offer changes. I would like to thank everyone for coming today. We've had about 55-ish folks, between 50 and 55 folks logging in and out throughout the webinar. So really appreciate everyone's time. I know it's a big chunk of the day for so many people and you need to shuffle things around. This will be sent out as a recording to everyone who is registered. We'll also go through the chat and any of those comments or questions that we haven't been able to address today, we will add those to the FAQ sheet that we already have on the website. Give us a little bit of time to get that piece of work done. So hopefully sometime this week we'll be able to update that, and we'll also send that out with the video and the link for the feedback as well. But if you'd like to put in some feedback now, that would be amazing. And thank you so much for attending today's information session.